Have you ever had a podcast episode that felt stiff or awkward and ends up leaving you wondering if your guest or your listeners actually connected? The secret to amazing conversations actually lies before and after you hit record and how you make their guests feel truly comfortable and valued. If you want genuine, impactful interviews, then this episode is for you. Welcome to Podcasting Unlocked, the show for purpose-driven podcasters. I'm Alicia Galati, founder of Galati Media, and I'm here to share actionable strategies to help you amplify your message and grow your audience. Hey friends, today I'm so excited to share this episode with you all about ensuring that you are mastering this guest management to make sure that your podcast interviews are actually impactful. This is something that I definitely see a lot of people struggle with. I have been podcasting since 2018 and interviewing since then, and I was a guest before that. So podcasting is not new to me at all. But if you're new here, thank you for joining me today. I'm so excited that you're here today. We're going to be talking through some really strategic ways to ensure that you are comfortable, your guest is comfortable throughout the entire process. I have found that being a podcast host can be really, really unnerving sometimes. You're not always sure if the guest is the perfect fit for you. And if you're like me and you're not doing pre-interviews, you might not actually know the direction that the conversation is going to go in. So it's important that you're making some genuine connections with your guest before and after you hit record. I remember during one podcast episode where the guest, and we have it on video, so you could go back and check it out. But we had a guest where every time I started talking, she looked down at her phone. That was really frustrating for me. And also, as someone who feeds off of the energy of my guest, I found it really disarming where I wasn't able to really show up as my excited and awesome self because I was so worried about what that would look like on video, that the guest wasn't finding me interesting, and that it wasn't going to be a valuable conversation for my listeners. So that is something that we could mitigate before the episode by having some conversations. So here are some things to set the stage for a successful podcast interview. First and foremost, I want you to make sure that you have a clear and concise intake process. I believe there's an episode under frequently asked questions where I share what a podcast intake form might look like. To give you a quick overview of that, if someone is pre-approved to go on my show, meaning I have already scoped them out and I know I want them on my show, they go through my pre-approved process. They fill out the form and it has all the questions I want to ask them, the direction they want to take the episode, any discussions that they're not comfortable with, which is really, really important. And then it directs them to book the interview time right there. If someone is coming through PodMatch, which is also a podcast guest management platform that I use, then I have everything there. I simply just go in once a week. I approve or decline the people who have pitched to be guests on the show. And then I am then able to just click accept and it automatically sends them to all the information that they would need to be able to book the call. I don't need so much intake information at that point because I can already see their profile and everything that I would need beforehand is already right there. We did have a bonus episode recently where we talked about places to find quality guests, and it's a quick 10 minutes or less episode, so you're definitely going to want to check that out. Next, I send them an email the day before. Now, this is all automated, so that way I am not stressing out about, oh no, I have an interview with someone next week and I need to send them something. Nope, all automated. I send them information on how to prepare best for their interview. I let them know, hey, this is a video podcast. I will be using the video on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, etc. And then I make sure that I let them know more about the podcast and what it's going to be like. Any technical requirements like, hey, make sure that your AC fan is off so that way we can't hear it over the recording. Make sure that your phone is silenced and all of that extra stuff. That helps prepare the guests for what they need to know. Next, I manage expectations before we hit record. During the almost pre-interview-esque conversation, so I don't have an actual pre-interview, But about 5 to 10 minutes when the person gets on the call, I give them a rundown of what to expect. And these are the exact things I say. This interview is going to be very conversational. We're going to go back and forth and have a discussion. If at any point you need to pause and restart, feel free to. This alleviates that stress of my guest feeling like, oh no, I have to show up perfect. No, it's okay. We have an editor. And if at any point you need to stop, restate your question or restate your thought, feel free to. We will edit it out and make sure that you and I both sound fantastic. I also give them some leeway that, hey, there might be a point in the interview where I might say, I had a thought. Give me a second. It'll be back. And what this allows the guest to know is I'm human too. And there might be points where I mess up, and that's okay too. They don't have to feel like I have to show up perfect. I don't feel like they have to show up perfect. And then we're able to have a more relaxed conversation. I also let them know when the episode is expected to go out. That way they can set the tone for anything that they're promoting during that time based on when the episode is expected to air. I then give them a timeline. I say this episode is going to be 20 to 30 minutes is usually what I strive for in an interview. If we go over 30 minutes, 45 is my hard stop. That makes it so clear for the guest that as they see that clock ticking up and the recording time going, that we are still in the clear. And I don't feel like I have to rush them, that we're able to wrap it up in a bow. And also that they don't feel like, wow, you cut that conversation really short. We were at 23 minutes. No, 20 to 30 minutes is about what I strive for this conversation. We also check tech. I will look and see where their microphone is pulling from. I use Riverside to record all of my podcast episodes, and that allows me to very easily see that, hey, they're pulling from their computer microphone, but I see a microphone on their desktop. Can you just double check that you have the right one selected? Or, I'm hearing some background noise. Can we get that adjusted real quick? That allows me to feel comfortable and confident that how it's going to show up is going to be perfect. Then during the interview, I want to make sure I'm creating a safe and engaging space for my guest. I want to make sure that I start the conversation very casually with, hello, thank you so much. I'm so excited you're here. If you could start by telling everyone who you are, what you do, and a bit about your podcast. That sets the stage right up for them to talk about themselves. Everyone already knows the spiel of who they are, what they do, and a bit about their show. Then from there, I can dig a little deeper into the questions I might have, or maybe I decide that I want to take the conversation just a little different direction because of something they said. But it keeps it started at a very conversational tone, which is good for my listeners and is good for my guest. Next, I want to make sure that I'm actively listening and empathetic during the conversation. And one way that I make sure that I do that is by ensuring that I do not have a lot of pre-programmed questions. Meaning, yes, I'll have an outline or a direction that I know I want to take the conversation, but I don't want it to be so scripted that it's like, oh, you just gave us something really interesting and I feel like I could go off on that for a while and I know it would be beneficial for my audience. But because I don't have that on my questions, I'm going to go this way. I don't want to do that to my guests and I don't want to do that for my listener. I want to give my listener the very best that I can. And so sometimes what I'll do to make sure that my guest is really heard is I will just look at them and be nodding as they're talking. I try not to make a lot of affirmations like, oh yeah, yes, that's right. I try not to do that because I know that my editor is going to take them out. This way, me nodding and being like, yes, oh my God, I totally agree. Nodding my head and having those visual cues can really help set my guest up for, okay, she's engaged and she's listening. This is good, or I'm saying the right things. What I love about this is that if there is a point where, I have a thought, I'll just quickly jot it down on my notebook in front of me. That way I know that I can get back to it later. I like to use my Rocket notebook, which allows me to wipe it clean later so I'm not using a bunch of paper for my podcast interviews because I'm not going to need those notes again at any point. Don't need them for my editor to handle or any of that. So it helps me keep track of those thoughts that I might have while still staying engaged. My role as a host is to make my guests look good. And my goal is to make myself look good. I know that so often we take the approach that it's just about the guest or the guest is the one that we're highlighting. And yes, I agree with that to an extent, but I also know my audience that they are here for me and my pro tips. And so I want to make sure that while, yes, I'm highlighting this person and their podcast, and I'm so excited to share what they have to say and what they're doing in the world, I also want to make sure that my audience understands, like, oh, this is why that worked for that person. Or here's another tip that might work for you if that strategy doesn't work for you. And that keeps my listener involved in the conversation rather than us just talking at or it being only interview style. Now, after the podcast interview, some things that I like to do is literally as soon as I hit stop recording, I will ask my guest this exact question. So, how do you feel about that? How did the interview go? What that allows me to determine is, do they feel like they showed up as their best self? Usually people will say, well, how do you feel? Like, I feel fine, but like, how was it for you? Is that what your audience needs? And I love that. And I still want to create space that my guest can feel like, actually, I don't really feel like I showed up as 100% me. I don't feel like I showed up well or answered your questions well. Could we redo a few of those? Out of hundreds of interviews that I have done by this point, I've had one person say, actually, could we re record this? I don't feel like I showed up well. And I said, absolutely. I'm perfectly okay with that because I want to make sure that my guest feels like everything they said and everything they talked about, they would be excited to share with their audience because that's the goal of having them on the show, to highlight them, but also to get access to their audience. And so ensuring that they feel comfortable and confident with the episode is key in making sure that they're going to share it with them. Next, I let them know, all right, now your episode is going to be going live around this time. When it does, we will make sure that we send you all of the assets. We'll send you social copy. I'll tag you on social media. And that is going to help them feel like, okay, she's handling this. I don't have to do anything else until I get those assets. If you want to know more about how I get my guests to share about their episode, we have a bonus episode that we recently did. We'll make sure we link it in the show notes. And that's 10 minutes or less answering that question of how to get your guests to share about their episode. Now, after the interview, I'll also send them an automated email from Calendly. It's already set up. I don't have to worry about it, where it says, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm so excited to share your episode with the world. It's going to be a while before it comes out. So in the meantime, here are some places I would love to connect with you. Also, if you'd like to leave a rating and review, then there's that option as well, right? It's not something that they have to do, but it does help their episode get more traction when it comes out. Being a host takes so much effort and time, and it's important that we do these things pre, during, and post the interview to ensure that our guests have the best experience. Little bonus tip, if the person is a collaborator or a connector where maybe they might know your potential clients, another thing I like to do is let them know about my referral program. That for every person that they send my way, here is the financial kickback that I give for my strategic partners. We do have an episode with Carol Hamilton called The Value of Referral Partners Through Podcast Guests. And Carol does this really strategically. She has guests on her show that could be referral partners. That is what she's worried about. She's not worried about the number of downloads she gets. She's only worried about, is she able to turn those guests into connections, collaborators, or clients? Even if it's none of those, that's still okay, but that is the goal. Then she knows what system she needs to use to be able to do this. Now, I do this for a very select few people, but I will say, like, is there anything I can do to support you? And what this allows the person to say is, yes, please. I would love to be on more podcasts. Here are the podcasts I'm looking for. Or if you know anyone who needs this service, here's a service I offer. And typically they'll say, hey, is there anything I can do to support you? And I say, if you know anyone who needs support around their podcast, strategy, or production, I'm your girl. Let me know and send them my way. And I'm happy to send you a referral bonus for that. Now, that makes it very natural. It's a quid pro quo. I give, you give kind of discussion, and it feels really genuine. And again, I don't do this for every guest because not every guest feels aligned in this area. But for people who it would make sense, I like to have this conversation because you ask your guest if there's a way that you can support them, and then they will likely ask if there's a way they can support you. And it's a great way to let people know about what you do and how you work with people. All right. If you are someone who is struggling with this or trying to decide, all right, I need to make some adjustments to my but I'm not really sure how to do that, please go to helpmypod.com. I have a free 20-minute consultation there, and I am always open to spending that 20 minutes giving you my top tips on how to do better in whatever it is that you are struggling with on your podcast. Again, that's helpmypod.com. And I am there to support you and help you along the way. And of course, we have hundreds of episodes here that you can check out to make a difference and create that impact in the world that you want to with your podcast. All right. Until next time, happy podcasting.